All right, everybody, we are back with another episode today. I'm joined again by Ava Brand. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Thank you for having me back. How are you doing?
Yeah, doing well. I mean, last time we talked, it was right before they traded for Trent McDuffie. So who knows what's going to happen
Yeah.
now?
The AJ Brown. Just kidding.
Could be. Who knows?
We'll see.
You were also going through like a little bit of a job transition. Like, how has that been with your new job at LA Sports Report?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been really fun getting to do a lot of like digital and social coverage, especially with the MLB season ramping up now, getting to do a lot of Dodgers stuff too, but also keeping an eye on the Rams, Lakers. Got to go to a few of the Lakers playoff games. So it's been great. It's been fun to kind of dive more into the like content side of things versus just like the hard news. I'm enjoying that, a little more creativity in a sense. The playing the social media game. So it's been fun.
Yeah. Speaking of the Lakers, I feel like they're in a completely different spot entirely than they were like the past year. Like you have LeBron that's like considering retiring or considering, joining even another team. Like what do you think about that whole situation?
I know everything that I've seen and heard is that he genuinely didn't really know what his next move would be towards the end of the season. So I think maybe now there's some clarity that he's kind of entered his offseason. Seems like he's been enjoying golfing a lot, which is good. The Lakers even Luka seem to be a big golf team. But in terms of his future, I don't know. I think the Lakers have made it clear this is Luka's team. So the big question is if he does stay, would he be willing to take a pay cut maybe to, have stay in LA? Because they also will likely pay Austin Reeves this season. Luka's been vocal, he likes Austin Reeves. Not that he doesn't like LeBron, but, it's just a different kind of extension. So would he take maybe a little bit of pay cut, or would the Lakers be able to work something out? Or does he go to Cleveland? I don't see him going to Golden State. I've seen that kind of floating around. I don't know.
People just want him and Steph. That's what it is.
It'd be pretty cool. But yeah, in terms of his future, I think one thing that's like not maybe basketball or money related in a sense is what his family thinks. Like especially Zuri and Savannah, because I think he's obviously dedicated 23 plus, but 23 years in the NBA of his life to revolving around basketball. And obviously he plays with Bronny now and Bryce is at Arizona. But in terms of his daughter and his wife, what do they kind of want? Does he want to be around more frequently for them? I think that could be maybe carry more weight than people realize.
Yeah, I think like you said, it might be difficult to like what if he says, "Oh, I want to go play back in Cleveland." They got to kind of uproot a little bit, go back
Exactly.
to Cleveland. Like that's just kind of difficult, especially if he's only going to play maybe 2, 3 more years instead of 5, 10 more years. Like your
Yeah.
average NBA player, like that's just kind of. I feel like it might be a little bit of pain, just logistics wise for him. But I mean, he's got
Yeah.
all the money in the world to do that, though. So who knows?
Yeah. And like, I mean, they could stay in LA, but then it's like a long distance sort of, So I think that's something that is a big factor aside from the money and the chemistry of team building and stuff like that. I think that's something that's will be important in his decision.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when you look at that roster, I feel like they're a little bit kind of like top heavy with like, I feel like they need a little more bench sort of action. What do you think about that?
I definitely think depth is a big thing. I mean, we saw Luke Kennard really step up in that first round series against the Rockets, and Marcus Smart was incredible. But I think in terms of competing at a championship level with a lot of other rosters, they're going to need depth and like consistent scoring from their, not even just their number 2 option, but their number 3, 4, 5. LeBron maybe was their number 3, and he obviously could still produce at a very high level, but the depth is the biggest thing. And I mean, watching Game 7 last night of between the Spurs and the Thunder, like the Spurs young core is all basically 22 and younger.
Yeah.
And
I
if
feel
they
like
stick
that's
there,
partially like the result of them doing all sorts of trades and everything is they don't get first round picks. They don't get to have, a Stephon Castle like that. Is just they traded
yeah,
away for Luka. They traded away, or no, not for Luka, but they traded away for various different times in Westbrook or all those sorts of trades. So I feel like that's sort of a byproduct of that. Same thing the Rams were going through a couple of years ago, where they just didn't have a first round pick, but they were able to draft and develop guys. Like I feel like if you kind of draft and develop guys in the same way and, stick with them, I don't know what's going on with Dalton Connect. Like, he was great.
Yeah.
Then
A dude
the
hero.
trade.
I think he has a bright future when he gets more reps, more playing time. But yeah, Dalton Connect, I think that failed, or yeah, the failed trade with Charlotte kind of, I don't know. That's an awkward situation, and maybe a fresh start is better for him. But to your point about the Lakers, like the Spurs were able to build through the draft for the most part. They're 3 core players, and Stephon Castle, I believe they drafted, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Wemby, obviously, and then
I think it's only Fox and Harrison Barnes and like some of their depth guys.
yeah. But the Lakers, I think part of that is LA fans aren't really willing to wait around for a year, like even
Yeah.
if like it's always the expectation is always a championship, and if it's not a championship, then it's the playoffs. Like a year where the Lakers don't make the playoffs, I feel like is considered a failed year for a lot of LA sports fans. So I think that's kind of why we see them trade a lot, and then they don't have these high first round draft picks.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole entire reason the Rams went after Ty Simpson is they're not going to be picking that high again.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a similar, like if you're in LA and you're not making the playoffs or being considered a contender, then people aren't going to pay attention.
How great is that? I mean, there's places like Detroit Detroit's having a resurgence, but they used to just be terrible all around. Like some of those East Coast teams, like the Jets, and like we're over here in LA, we're just like, you don't make the playoffs, just get out, like the Angels.
Exactly. I mean, it's a like old kind of not saying, but mindset of like, yeah, if you're not competitive in LA, there's how many professional sports teams? There's UCLA, there's USC, even like Long Beach can be like people enjoy watching them. And then if you're not competitive, there's tons of things to do. You can go to a movie, a concert, you can go to the beach, you can go to the mountains. Like, I think the championship expectations are always real in LA.
Yeah. And if we're sitting here a year from now, what would you say a successful Lakers like run looks like? Is that just a run to the finals, you think? Or do you think that they have a little bit more they need to add and do to sort of make that run for the finals?
I think they do have more to do and add to make that run to the finals, but I think with Luka Doncic entering or in his prime,
Yeah.
it's kind of if they're not seen as a legit contender, then it would be a failed season.
I saw somebody say, I thought this was really interesting, that Dallas sort of had a really perfect roster built around Luka with like Gafford, Derek Lively as well. And I was like, yeah, I feel like they kind of had a more like well-rounded roster instead of like the Lakers feel a little bit top heavier than Dallas did at the time.
Yeah, I think I think that's kind of obviously when the season they traded for him, that was their big move. Like you can't build a roster around someone in a season. But I think this offseason is huge, especially with the ownership change. He's reportedly in good communication with Mark Walter and Rob Pelinka and everybody. So I think that'll be big in the terms of if they make a trade or the free agents they choose to sign. It's all centered around building around Luka. So I think getting more depth and a more maybe reliable rim running big. I think Jackson Hayes and DeAndre Ayton were solid this year. Like we saw DeAndre Ayton was pretty held it down for the Lakers in the playoffs. But I think there was just so much discourse with him throughout the year about, he wanted more touches and then not being able to handle the passes. So really getting a solid rim running big that Luka, can play around and just getting more depth overall, like we've been saying.
Yeah. Speaking of expectations, I don't think there's a football team in Los Angeles with higher expectations than the Rams right now. Like we're at 7 primetime games, 3 to start the year.
Yep.
What do you think about that roster right now? Because I've heard people call them the most complete roster in the NFL. And I'm like, I feel like there's some spots, but I feel like that's not too far away from the truth.
For sure. And I think every roster will have their some spots. But on paper, it definitely looks like they should be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. And they should have been last year.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people say that NFC Championship was more like the Super Bowl than the actual Super Bowl. But again, obviously the championship or the Super Bowl isn't one on paper, and a lot can happen in an NFL season in terms of other teams making trades, free agents, or not free agency, but trades, waivers, injuries, hopefully not. But I think on paper, they do have Super Bowl expectations and everything looks good on paper. But like we said, game's not played on paper.
Yeah, that's why I think the NFL. I was really surprised that the NFL was pushing for all those primetime slots because they usually like typically for the last in the Sean McVay era, like they get maybe 3, 4 primetime slots, even though they've been really good in that time. But all of a sudden, they're just like they're pushing them ahead of the Chiefs and the.
I wonder if part of it was Matthew Stafford winning MVP and then he's coming back. And this, I believe they released the schedule before he signed his contract extension. So it was, could this be his last season type of thing? But I mean, yeah, I think 4 of the first 5 weeks they're in prime time, something like that. And the 7 ties, like you said, the Chiefs and other ones. So the world will be, or the nation and the world, I guess they'll be in Australia. We'll be watching.
Yeah, so first week, San Francisco and Australia. Second week is Monday Night Football. Third week is Sunday Night Football versus Denver. And then then you got Philadelphia and just a normal 10 o'clock. And then the next week is Buffalo Monday Night Football. So they just have a gauntlet to open the year. Minus the New York Giants, but they just have a gauntlet to open the year.
They beat Philly on Thursday Night Football last year, I believe.
Yeah, but I feel like San Francisco, Denver, Philly, Buffalo, like that's a hard first 5 games. I wouldn't be surprised if they win 2 out of the 5.
And Denver and Philly are on the road too.
Yes.
And so San Francisco is a home game, but
technically, I mean, I don't know why they call it that. I mean, just call it a neutral site game. They're like, yeah, the Rams are the home team. Sure. We're just, 20,000 miles the other way.
Yeah, I know. I'm interested to see because that's like a 10 a.m. local kickoff in Australia for them, which is probably earlier than a lot of those guys, maybe some of the newer rookies get like the 12 p.m. kickoffs in college, but it's probably a lot earlier than they've played in a lot of years.
Yeah, I've heard players say that they're really excited to go. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure they're just doing that for the marketing, but I feel like international games I've heard are always tough for guys because you're going on a long plane ride. You're getting there early, like maybe a couple days earlier to practice and everything. You're tired, and then by the time you play, it's like, all right, as soon as we get out, we get out of here, and it's just real busy for them.
Yeah, it'll for sure be interesting to see how early they go because last year when they played in London, they had that game in Baltimore the week before, so they stayed on the East Coast and then I don't know exactly how long they were in London.
I think I remember hearing
they did it shorter than a lot of other teams.
Yeah.
People questioned it, but then they played really well.
Yeah. I remember hearing them.
Australia's sorry.
We're saying something like, oh, we just want to try to get there as soon as possible so that your sleep rhythms and everything don't get disrupted and then they can just kind of get to it like as soon as they get there.
Yeah, Australia is a whole different beast. I've never been, but like that's kind of the furthest time change you can do. And it's the first week of the season, so maybe they will go like a week earlier. I don't know. Yeah, you throw in an international game in the first game of the season, and who knows what's going to happen, especially a rivalry game.
Yeah, I was surprised they decided to go for Thursday because then everyone was saying like, oh, that's kickoff time. But then the Seahawks were like, no, actually, we're going on Wednesday.
Yeah, the NFL's taking over every day of the week.
They're taking over every day of the week. They're taking over all the countries in the world.
Literally.
I've heard Japan, too, is something that they're looking at.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, so I don't know, like, why we're trying to saturate, like, really fast, because I feel like, especially with Netflix, Peacock, Prime, like, I feel like the consumer is sort of losing out here in terms of how they watch football games.
Yeah, I think I saw something like if you want to watch every game or no, like on all the different sites, and then if you do like the red zone and everything like that, it can cost you like $1,000 to be a fan.
Yeah, that's crazy. I know like a lot of the local games will just be on TV here in Los Angeles, but I know
exactly.
For our non-LA Rams fans, I feel like it's really
like the Thursday night games are only on Prime, and then the kickoff game, is it on Netflix? Or there's a Christmas game or the Wednesday game, the Thanksgiving Eve. Also, like the NFL's inventing holidays. Like Thanksgiving Eve isn't a holiday.
Black Friday game too. So
yeah. Black Friday was like little established. Like Thanksgiving Eve, that's like a night maybe. I don't know. You're home with your friends, and you go out to a bar before. It's not really a real holiday, but we're making it one.
Not really, but. Yeah, the first game is on Netflix, and the kickoff is NBC, so I feel like, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, it's a lot. We've strayed far from cable, but it's not the NFL's fault. I don't know.
Yeah, eventually, I think, let's see, they have a Thursday, they have a Monday, they have a Sunday, they have a Wednesday, and then they have a Friday. They're just missing
Yeah, I think they
Tuesdays.
play on, and they could play on Saturday towards the end of the season with those flex games.
So
They
they're
could also
missing,
have 8 primetime games with those last 2, because their last games against Seattle, like that could very well be a primetime game for the NFC West.
they could definitely flex that. I can see that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it could. I had Tuna, First and Tuna on a couple weeks ago, and he was saying that's when we should see Ty Simpson. That they have the seed locked up.
I mean,
Yeah,
in
like
the
they
Rams
throw him out
fan
there.
streams, that's the plan. But like we said, it's a long ways away. You never know
Yeah.
what may happen in between now and then.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, what were your thoughts about Ty? Speaking of Ty,
I mean, like everyone, I think everyone was surprised at first. But then once you kind of digest it in that press conference after, the vibes weren't like their usual normal press conference post-draft energy vibes. But I think once we've been able to digest it and see, it makes sense. I think really time will be the only answer that tells if it was the right choice or not. A lot of people think we're like targeting Mekhi Lemon was still available, and they don't really have a true wide receiver 3 right now in their roster. They have a lot of options, but it's like who's going to step up, and maybe people thought Mekhi Lemon could be that, wide receiver 3 learn behind Puka and Davante Adams, but I really do think time is the only answer that we'll be able to see, and Stafford plays 2-3 more seasons. Is Ty Simpson ready to take over, and is he going to be their next franchise quarterback? And like you kind of alluded to earlier, they don't usually draft this high or pick this high in the draft. So they did have the luxury of, this wasn't even their draft pick. I think theirs was the 29th overall, right?
yeah,
The
there's
29th,
really
26th.
they traded that from McDuffie.
Yeah. So it's like this wasn't even their draft pick. So they kind of it was like a bonus option.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think time is the only answer that will tell. I think I'm not super concerned with him only having like 15 or so starts in college. I think there's adjustment for any quarterback going from college to the NFL, and like he'll be able to sit behind Matthew Stafford for a year or 2, 3 years and learn and get to see those defenses. Obviously, practice is different, but the preseason games. So I'm not super concerned about his 15 starts. I think it is. He's dealt with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm less concerned about that just because he's not going to start right away. Like if that was starting quarterback week 1, then I'd be concerned.
Yeah. If he was getting thrown into the gauntlet right away, I'd be like, this is awful. Or not awful, but like you're not teeing up your franchise quarterback for success in that way. But
Yeah,
being able to develop is huge.
absolutely. That was my sort of sentiment as well. Like I wanted Ruben Bain actually because I thought that would be so much fun just having him on that defensive line.
Yeah.
But I think with sort of the schemes that they've been deploying towards the end of last year, where it was mostly 13 personnel, I just can't see like Xavier Smith I was surprised to know that Xavier Smith was the 3rd wide receiver technically by yards, not Jordan Whittington. Like I was doing some stat research and I was like, oh, like I didn't even think that was something that was a possibility for them. But I think that the fact that Puka he commands like 15 targets a game. Like there's not much room for a 3rd wide receiver to kind of get some action there.
Exactly. And they have, like you're saying, they use 13 personnel a lot. And they have Tyler Higbee. They extended him, I think 2 more years, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
They extended him. They just drafted Terrence Ferguson. So they have their offensive weapons, I would say. So then again, it makes sense that, okay, maybe they didn't need to target a wide receiver, especially if they're thinking of paying Puka Nacua this offseason. They also have Konate Mumpfield, who Davante Adams has said is like a son to him. So
yeah, I feel like
kind of a breakout player for them in terms of their offensive production.
Yeah, part of the idea people were saying also behind drafting a wide receiver was just because that Davante is going to play maybe 2 more years max. And that was part of it as well. And I think CJ Daniels, I was watching some of his tape after the draft, pretty good, like fits the mold of what a Rams wide receiver should be. Like it's a little shifty, fast. Like I think he could definitely contribute this year, if not, in the year's future. So
yeah, and I think the Rams have success of drafting wide receivers in the late rounds. Like Puka Nacua is a 5th round pick, Cooper Kupp was a 3rd round pick. So they're good at spotting that talent, especially for wide receivers late in the draft.
Yeah. Where would you say the hole is on this team? Because we talked about it a little bit earlier. I have I've said a couple positions in mind. I would love to hear your opinion.
Oh, that's a good question. I'm interested to see they solved their secondary kind of by drafting or
Yeah.
by trading for Trent McDuffie. I'm just interested to see how it plays out. I guess that's the position or the group that intrigues me the most. They extended Quinton Lake, so I think that was their biggest hole, and obviously they filled it. I'm just excited to see kind of the improvements they make. I think. What's your biggest hole?
Yeah, looking at this roster on paper, and like we said earlier, on papers means
Yeah,
nothing. But just from the past years of these players playing together and everything, I think linebacker is probably one of the biggest ones on defense, just because Nate Landman had like a good weeks 1 through 8, and then I feel like afterwards he kind of just like dipped down
yeah,
back to reality. Like he was punching out balls in the first couple weeks. He was
yeah.
doing, and then
Peanut
like we never
punches.
heard from him the rest of the year, pretty much. Like there was
Yeah,
maybe,
yeah. That's a good one, linebacker.
and then I would say probably secondary depth because let's
Mhm.
say we have Cam Lampkin, Jalen McCullough, Tanner Ingle. Like those guys are not particularly impressive as much as the D line has depth. I feel like secondary depth as well. That's also part of the fact that literally all 4 of their starters last year just like left as well, or
Yeah,
retired in Darius Williams' case. And I think on offense, I would probably go offensive line depth as well. So just kind of depth, nothing really starting because I feel like
yeah.
all the
That's what I was
starters are
thinking.
kind of,
The offensive line.
yeah, just offensive line depth because we saw a couple guys go down last year and Diedish played and he wasn't great. And
Hmm.
McVay, actually, Camp last year, I remember, said that they know that they're going to have to play more than 5 offensive linemen in a year. So
Yeah,
getting depth is huge. I don't know how it's so easy for them to get hurt, especially because, I mean, they have the 5 and they have a good amount of depth. I think right now they have Bo Limmer and they have Diedish was all right, but I think that he's like a young guy as well. So I think when you look at that offensive line unit, hopefully you're not hoping for anyone to get hurt, but you want someone that can step in and not be the reason that Matthew Stafford gets sacked 4 times in a game, pretty
for
much.
sure. And they got to, yeah, I mean, he's 40, turning 40, 39. I don't know.
He's
But I mean, yeah,
close enough.
any
In
quarterback shouldn't be getting sacked multiple times a game, but especially when
He's
towards the
38, so
he's
close.
38. Close towards the latter half of his career. You want to definitely, I mean, keep him up
Yeah,
there, of course.
absolutely. So I think those two, it's really just depth. It's nothing really like a need. That's what I was saying before the draft too, is like they don't have a need really. You're looking for quality depth that can turn into a future starter in the draft because there's
Yeah,
not really anyone that can, but this is what they thought obviously as well with Ty. There's not really anyone that could go in and contribute like and really move the needle for them to Super Bowl like they
yeah, yeah. I think Les Snead said, you look at your roster. Is this one player gonna put us over the edge for the Super Bowl? And they felt like there wasn't a player that was like, okay, we're one player away from being in the Super Bowl being in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, they were already there last year. That's why I was like, okay, I've sort of just warmed up to the Ty Simpson pick, like as time has gone on more and more.
For sure, for sure. It's also like, I don't know. I mean, they're doing this is their full-time job. They're doing this daily,
Yeah,
like I think fans do need to put a little bit of trust into the front office. They've had
absolutely.
a pretty good run so far.
I see so many people that were like they were dogging Ty online, and I was like, man, like they're if we're worried about uniforms and we're worried about who the future quarterback is going to be, and it's not like other teams where it's like, oh my god, our offensive line is terrible, our running back is
Yeah,
terrible. Like that's a great thing.
exactly, exactly.
Speaking of uniforms, new uniforms dropped. What do you think about those?
I think they're good. Honestly, I didn't really have a problem with the old uniforms. Maybe it seems like I was in the unpopular opinion with
Yeah,
that one, but I don't know. I kind of liked the gradient. I'm not gonna lie. The all yellow is like, maybe it's just like a little bit of an adjustment period, but I like them. I'm happy they're keeping the midnight mode uniforms in the
yeah.
rotation because those ones are some of my favorite in
Two
the
new ones this summer as well. That's why I'm excited for those.
summer.
Yeah, two like totally new
Oh,
ones.
oh yeah, 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 yeah. I'm excited to see those ones. Yeah, in terms of the classic ones, like I like them. I think they're good. I think the sleeves look cool. I don't really have any issues with them. I didn't. I don't know. I'm kind of not like indifferent, but I don't know. I like them. I think like the changes are kind of like besides the logo, they're kind of small where it's like I don't
Yeah.
know.
I think they were just this was more so of like a course correction on what they did wrong with the
For sure,
2020
for
set
sure.
rather than just like a whole,
Yeah.
rebranding. It was sort of just like, okay, we're gonna change the logo, make it one color. We're gonna remove that little name tag patch.
I guess removing the name tag patch I like because it didn't really fit.
Drop the gradients, make the horns, the rivalry horns. I think
Yeah.
that was and then white
I mean,
pants.
they made good adjustments, and I think it timed up well with the 10 years being back in LA.
Yeah, I think too this summer, if I was to guess, I would be say the yellows, all yellows, just like when they played the Chiefs.
Oh
How
yeah,
cool would that be? They play the Chiefs again this year.
like
They
a
they're
color
gonna
rush.
rock. Yeah, all yellows. I think the white and blue would be really cool, like the fearsome foursome.
Yeah.
I feel like they might do something different. I don't know. I don't think they're bringing the bone back, but I can't really think of any other,
No, I think they said they're getting rid of the bone.
just like a modern version of the bone. Yeah, but I that was a weird choice to begin with as the the primary away. I
Yeah,
think, but
yeah.
I
I
would
don't think
I would guess yellow and
take it
blue
off. But yeah,
because
I
they're
think they
cute.
look sharp. I like them.
Yeah. Speaking of uniforms, moving on to the team that has the best uniforms, I think, in the NFL, the Chargers.
The powder blue.
Powder blue is absolutely the best uniform.
No, I
I
like
think
them. I like them too.
I tweeted this out the other day, and I feel like people love the retro stuff, not just because it's like nostalgic. They probably think it's because of nostalgia, but I think people like love retro stuff just because it's like they took creative choices, they used a lot of color,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like visually interesting rather than sort of watered down, simplified kind of stuff.
For sure. Yeah. I love it's kind of like a similar to like the Carolina blue, which I think is also one of the best colors in college sports.
Yeah, that nice, like, really bright, like, vivid light blue is great. The
Yeah.
Lions blue is pretty good too, I think.
Yeah, they do have a good blue. Good blues.
So, the Chargers. Do you feel like Jim Harbaugh, like, this is it for him? Do you think this is a do or die year, or do you think that he has, like, a longer leash? Because I feel like he comes here, they have just, like, extensive injuries, so I feel like that's so far he's kind of been on like, people haven't been putting him on the hot seat or anything because he's just had extensive injuries, which is nothing
Yeah.
new for the Chargers. But I feel like this year, personally, is kind of like a make or break year for him because the Chargers were just amazing to start the season last year. They knocked off the Chiefs. They were playing like their best ball. Joe Alt goes down. Rashawn Slater was down already. And then they just sort of like were mid the rest of the year and then collapsed in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that playoff collapse and can they get like that elusive playoff win with Justin Herbert. So I don't think it's like a hot seat do or die kind of year for Harbaugh. Just because like you said they had injuries and I think some of the big thing they need like some stability cuz I don't know the numbers off the top of my head but Herbert I think has had a few offensive coordinators in his first however many years. And we don't know how long Mike McDaniel is going to stay like if he wants to be a head coach or wherever his future holds, but I think stability is kind of what the Chargers need. So I don't think maybe next if this year kind of goes the same way and they taper off and they I think getting a playoff win will be huge. Then I think maybe next year would be the kind of do or die type of year. But I think the biggest thing again is just can they sustain that competitiveness throughout the season? Like they had a chance to lock up the AFC West last year, which would have been huge. They don't have to go on the road to New England. But I wouldn't say it's a do or die year for Harbaugh. But I mean, looking also, we talked about the Rams schedule. The Chargers kind of have a gauntlet to open up their schedule.
Yeah, I think when you look at that roster, if they can stay healthy, they can definitely be good. And they showed that they could be good even when they weren't healthy. So I think that, we could easily see a battle of Los Angeles for the Super Bowl here in LA.
That'd be pretty crazy.
That's
Battle
definitely
both LA teams
possible,
at
but
SoFi.
it'll be tough, but it's definitely possible.
That would be like the NFL would probably be very happy with that.
Yeah, so they open versus Arizona at SoFi, versus Las Vegas at SoFi, and then at Buffalo. So I would say that's Arizona's gotten more respectable as the years have gone on, but still not an amazing team.
The first two should win. They should win. And then they got the Bills, Seahawks, Broncos, Chiefs, Rams,
Yeah.
Texans, Ravens. Like That's a pretty brutal stretch
From week
right there.
3 to week, like, 10, that's a hard stretch there.
Yeah.
I
So
always think it's funny when they switch teams. It says at Los Angeles Rams, like that's any different.
I know, like, it's both teams. But hey, that's another fun, maybe early Super Bowl preview.
I think it's really interesting when they're like the Rams are gonna have to use their away locker room.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it was the same thing when they were in the Super Bowl and stuff. Right? They were like the Rams are have to use the away locker room because the Bengals are the home team.
Yeah, and they have to do the whole stay in a hotel thing. They try to keep it like you're not playing at your home stadium.
Yeah, that was crazy that happened 2 years in a row, and then it hasn't happened since. But once in
Maybe
the that
maybe
was like
now
the
it's the
first time.
resurgence. This is the year.
This is the year. We're calling it Battle from Los Angeles. Whoever wins in the Week 8 game wins the whole thing.
All
That's it.
right. Bold take. I like it.
I'll take. Yeah, I think this is definitely a doable schedule because this is what a second place schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Rams have a second place schedule as well.
Yeah. They both do.
So a little bit easier than if they would have won the division, but obviously you
Sure.
want to win that division so that you don't have to go to New England. But
Yeah.
I think when you look at some of these, especially the AFC East, not the greatest these days. Miami, the Jets, Patriots probably going to have a little bit of a slump.
Yeah, I mean they're obviously one of the most kind of intriguing teams in the offseason for off the field stuff. But it will be interesting to see how they deal with the Super Bowl and like how Drake May kind of follows up his nearly MVP caliber season.
Yeah, that was so interesting because when you turn on the tape, like I don't see him doing anything incredibly well. He was just sort of like a well-rounded player, if that makes sense. Like there was nothing like Stafford makes
Yeah. It wasn't like
really big throws. Like he was just like all around, like he's got a pretty good arm,
it
he's
was a
got pretty
solid
good
system and
execution.
scheme and everything they had going, but it's kind
Yeah,
of like you see with quarterbacks in their second year. It's like how do you deal or adapt when teams have a whole season of film on you now?
yeah, absolutely. And I don't know what's up with Herbert too, as well. I feel like he's just, he doesn't have that dog in him. Let's just be real. Like I feel
You don't
like
think so? He played with a broken hand.
they've
See
been
Harmon guys with a
he's
broken
gotten his
hand.
chances, and I feel like the playoff lights might be too bright for him. Honestly, I
The
love him.
playoffs, I don't know what's happened in the playoffs, and I don't know if it's become a mental roadblock or something, but
There's definitely been worse quarterbacks that have made the playoffs and won in the playoffs. I think it just is like it's been a combo of like no help. He just collapses in the playoffs. Same thing with like Lamar almost.
yeah, I think that no help is a big thing because when you're playing in the regular season and you're playing against non-playoff teams every
Yeah,
week or whatever it may be, you can kind of get away more with not a one-man show, but him kind of
carrying
willing to
the
keep
team.
the victory, especially when they're dealing with all these injuries or shorthanded. But when you get to the playoffs and everybody has to be like on their A game for all the entire game, then he can't do it.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think the biggest thing for the Chargers, I mean, we're looking ahead to January and what is it, May, almost June. But the playoff win is the biggest thing. That'll be a cloud over them until it happens.
I think I don't even know when their last one was. I know one of the last time they just lose every single time.
I think it was, let's see,
2019
2019. Yeah,
Raven. I remember that because that was the year I think that they won, and then they just got like their asses kicked by the Patriots.
which is ironic.
Yeah, I think that was the year they got like it was like 40 something to 10, and then that was rookie Lamar that they beat.
Yeah.
But I think when you look at the roster, it's a pretty complete roster. They had an Njoku at tight end, have Gadsden, pretty good offensive line. I think the interior is definitely not as strong as the two all-pro tackles for sure. Defensive line
Yeah.
pretty good. Linebackers very good, I would say. Khalil Mack, Denzel Perryman, Henley. Secondary pretty good as well. Like not really a ton of holes in general. I think the wide receiver spot is interesting, especially in the Mike McDaniel offense, because you have a guy who schemed up Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and then you have Ladd McConkey and Quentin Johnson. Both are just young guys.
Hmm.
And Ladd is interesting because he had a little bit of a drop off in production last
A
year, but
sophomore slump.
a lot of that was, I feel like Keenan Allen was like, I'm back, give me the targets.
Yeah.
So I think that if he gets that full opportunity again, he can definitely produce like he did his rookie year.
I'm really excited to see, what Mike McDaniel's draws up. He was really high on Quentin Johnson, compared him to Julio Jones and someone else I can't remember, but another great wide receiver. So I think he's really high on him. And like you said, Vlad McConkey
Yeah, Q had
having a bounce back year.
Q had I think 2 seasons in a row, 7 or 8 touchdowns plus. So he's definitely been the guy that they drafted him to be, except for that first year. But he's definitely improved year by year in the offense. And I think that when you look at Justin Herbert's tendencies, I think he likes Q in the red zone a lot.
Uh-huh.
And Trey Harris as well. People were high on Trey Harris. Like when I was doing jersey swaps for him last year, people were like, he's gonna start over, Quentin Johnston or Ladd. And I was like, I feel like I don't know about that. And then he rarely saw action. Like there were people who were so high on him coming out of
Yeah,
college.
I think the biggest thing with those wide receivers is consistency.
Yeah.
Because there's games where like Quentin Johnson would have like almost 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, but then other games he would have no catches. And like you kind of need some obviously you're not going to have 200 catches or 200 yards every game, but having consistent production on the offense is huge for them, like proving themselves and being a competitive team like we were saying earlier, so they don't have those late season drop-offs.
Yeah, the biggest thing for them is definitely staying healthy. I mean, I feel like we had a social graphic going up last year. It was basically like an unfortunate health tally marker, and every time someone would get hurt, we would just update it with a little hospital icon, and it was legitimately like
The
90%
Chargers
of
got
the
them all.
roster.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
90% of the roster was hurt at some point this year, which is insane. That's like insane levels of bad luck. I think I mean, I don't know how it happens to them consistently year over year, if it's
I know.
training, if it's strength and conditioning, recovery, whatever it is, but could just be bad luck. I don't know.
It is interesting. I don't know either, but yeah, they don't have that like electromagnetic field like the
Like the Niners.
49ers do, that theory. But yeah, staying healthy is obviously for any team it's huge, but especially the Chargers with a history of
Yeah. I mean, I think every starter at some
consistency
point
defensive line.
was out with like some sort of questionable or some
Yeah.
sort of injury. Even the running backs as well. What do you think about this running back room? I feel like it's pretty interesting. You have Hampton, Mitchell, Vidal, all pretty good. Like
Um,
Vidal got that huge couple games to finish out the year.
yeah. I think Omarion Hampton, I really liked what I saw from him last year. I think he's super dynamic and explosive, which bodes well. And then the Vidal, I was also impressed with him when Hampton was out. I think he really stepped up. So I like their running back room. I think it's a great compliment to Justin Herbert.
Yeah. I always wonder with guys in this sort of situation is it's like you have 3 guys that could definitely. I don't know about Keaton Mitchell. We haven't seen much of him at all, obviously with the Chargers, but you have definitely 2 guys that can start. And I always wonder what their mentality is like when you are a part of that sort of committee, because it's like I want to be the featured guy, but at the same time, we're all on the same team, and
Yeah.
carries are you're gonna get maybe like 30 carries in a game, and that's gonna have to be split up between at least 3 people. So
Yeah, I think Hampton did too. He had pretty good red zone production, running the ball and like being on pass catching threat too, which I think kind of excites me about him and his potential entering his second season as well.
yeah. So let's throw out a bold take here. What would you say the Charger season ends with? Do you think it ends in a playoff loss, playoff win? What do
I
you think?
think they'll get a wild card win
Wild card win. Okay.
and then would lose in the next round. That's my take.
Honestly, that seems really realistic. I mean, maybe I'm just being too optimistic here about the battle for Los
I
Angeles,
like
but
to be glass half full, but that's my take.
that feels pretty good. I would say my bold take would be
You have him in the Super Bowl.
realistic bold take. Realistic
Okay.
bold take. Still
Okay.
bold. I would say Ladd and Quentin Johnston both go for 1,000+ yards.
All right.
That's my realistic version.
That is bold take.
Because I mean, like you said, he had Waddle, he had Tyreek, so I think he can scheme it up for wide receivers pretty well.
I'm really excited to see what David Njoku does too.
Yeah, he was much more of a receiving tight end than a blocking guy in Cleveland, and that's why
Yeah, I think he'll block more, but I don't know in terms of being
I
a
think
big
in this
red zone
offense he'll
threat,
probably
he could
be
be exciting.
receiving more, which would be fun
Sorry?
to watch. I think in Mike McDaniel's offense they already have Kolar, and I think he's more the blocking guy.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he liked what I don't know. He came here
yeah,
for a reason. He kind of waited it out for a reason. He said there was other teams I could have signed with earlier, but he wanted to come here. So I'm excited to see kind of how he's used.
yeah. We have our last team today, UCLA football. Speaking of
Similar
all
colors,
these
also
teams,
great uniforms. I'll say that as a USC alum.
all these teams expectations up the wazoo. Like it's crazy. I feel like UCLA is definitely has more expectations in the college world than USC because USC like we know they're going to be good.
Yeah.
Let's make
I think you talked about Harbaugh being in the hot seat. I think this is a bigger do or die year for Lincoln Riley.
yeah. I'm not
Just
going to talk much on USC because I have no clue what's going on over there. But I
fair.
think they're expected to be good every year for sure. And
Yeah.
when you look at his success there, I have no clue what his record is in bowl games or whatever, but they haven't made the playoffs. I don't think,
Yeah, I
right?
think making the playoff is a big thing this year for them.
And what did the playoffs expand to? Was it 16?
I think it's still 12 this year, but maybe 16.
16. I think it
Yeah,
was.
the Big Ten wants them to expand and have like a bunch of automatic. The playoff is crazy the way it's going.
Yeah,
We're gonna have like
but
March Madness style soon.
I think he's gonna lose Jaden Maeva.
Maava.
He's gonna lose that guy next year, and
Yeah, and they
I
lost
feel like
Longstreet in the portal. He was a 5-star, but he transferred this year because he wanted to. Don't forget where he transferred to. Off the top of my
I feel
head,
like UCLA.
LSU.
Yeah, UCLA's definitely got those expectations as well. I was out at the spring game a couple weeks ago, and it was fairly full for a spring
Good.
game, as they want to call it. Like, I don't
Yeah,
think
scrimmage or
I don't know why they call it a game. They should just call it practice, like open practice, because that's all it is. They score it, but it's like, it was just such an arbitrary, like they were doing one-on-ones with DBs and wide receivers, and they were scoring
of
that.
course, I
So it
just
was
get the
like,
fans
it was,
a look.
I think they just called it a game day for marketing purposes.
Yeah,
But it looked good. It's always hard to tell from practice, but it looked like the players were enjoying themselves. It looked like they were having a great time, and that the vibes were up with them. I think Nico going into his second year is huge. They lost a ton of guys to the portal, and one of the underrated ones was Isaiah Chisholm, who was one of their leading tacklers last year. He went somewhere in the South, I forget where, but he was huge. John Vaughn's left for the draft. They had many guys leave for the NFL, and I forget who got drafted. I don't think anybody got
Chisholm went
drafted.
to Oklahoma State.
I don't think anybody got drafted this year, actually. But
no one did.
But Gary Smith and DeGiorgio both got picked up as UDFAs with the
Yeah.
Jaguars and the Raiders. I saw that.
Yeah, because they only let a couple guys go to the combine, but yeah, they didn't have anyone drafted.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for them is just from what I've seen since they've been in the Big Ten is their level of talent compared to all the other Michigans and Ohio State, level schools. Because I feel like USC has been able to do that. They've been able to recruit talent, develop the talent, that sort of thing. And that's why they've been able to be so successful these past couple of years. How many years? 3 years in the Big Ten? 2? I think 2. So yeah, over the past 2 years, they've been able to compete at that same level because they just had the better talent, and UCLA has just not been able to because they don't have that level. It's not anything on the players; it's just compared to the rest of the schools in the same conference, like it's just not the same level of talent at all.
Big Ten, has the bigger, faster, physical stereotype.
Yeah, and I think Nico going into his second year is huge. He was definitely using his legs a lot last year, which I thought was interesting. But I think a lot of that was the offensive line wasn't blocking for him, so then he was.
He's like, I'm gonna do it myself.
And they had a good pair of running backs. One of them was returning. Thomas, I think, is still there. And Coach Chesney brought in a ton from JMU. I think it was like 10 transfers, something like that. It was up there in transfers from JMU, but I think that when you look at how he's coaching the team versus how has more head coaching experience than Foster did, which that was kind of their management decision to promote him to head coach. He seemed like a nice dude, nothing against him, but I feel
he went to my rival high school actually.
Yeah, but I feel like Foster was not fit to be head coach, and people were saying he was a player's coach, and I think that the players did really like him, but I think that the scheme, the offense, when they tried to implement it with Bieniemy for that 1 year. Like, it just was not working out all across the board. And you could see that as soon as the coaching change happened, like, that was when they went on that run and beat Penn State, and they were just doing really well. So I think
Yeah.
such an interesting team to watch this year. I think that they could make a bowl game. They were kind of close. I think they were at 4 wins, and they could have easily won. They could have easily made a bowl game last year.
Yeah, I think my expectation for them is a bowl game this year.
Yeah, because there was a couple wins. There was, I think it was New Mexico and UNLV, where they were competitive, but not good enough to close it out. But
Yeah.
so interesting. If so, you're saying bowl game. Do you think bowl win is the question?
I think it depends what bowl game they draw. But I think
Yeah.
a bowl game for sure. I think Bob Chesney has obviously had success turning programs around from Holy Cross to James Madison, and he's brought his guys over from JMU. So I think that's huge. His offensive coordinator, Dean Kennedy, has had a lot of success as well with quarterbacks and getting the most out of them. So I think, like you're saying, it's a big year for Nico, but I think Bob Chesney has that reputation of being able to turn a program around and do it quickly. So, I mean, UCLA playing in the Big Ten is a struggle, and
Yeah,
you can't expect them to be a playoff team in year one under Chesney. Like, build that up over time with James.
surprise.
I mean, hey, never know. Maybe they'll prove everyone wrong. But they do have games at Oregon and at Michigan, so those could
Yeah,
be
definitely tough.
difficult places to play. But I think I see a bowl game for them. I think Bob Chesney has done a great job of the culture is the biggest thing. They all talk about it. They're going to have to walk the walk now, but I think the culture change is the biggest thing.
Yeah, I think that's really big in coaching, and I think putting your guys in positions to succeed is definitely something that's an underrated part of coaching as well.
For sure.
Yeah, that'll do us for today. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow along so you don't miss what's coming next. New episodes are dropping at least bi-weekly with more players, draft prospects, and guess all offseason. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at Football by Nico. And if you made it this far, share the show with someone who loves LA football. Appreciate you for listening.